Hi, this is Master Bamboo. Today, we have two portable cases, namely Mechanical Master C24 and C26, coming up. For these two builds, we're going to use both 11th and 12th generation Intel i5. And to match the theme, we're going to use the T-Force all-white DDR4 4000. Seasonic provides a great option for white power supplies. And the iGame 3060 Mini is a great option for smaller cases. For CPU coolers, we have the Thermalright SS110 and SS135 for white and the black build. Just like any other Mechanical Master cases, the first thing you want to do after you get the case is to remove all the panels before the build. To match the white color theme, we use Gigabyte's Vision D mini-itx board for this case. And needless to say, the CPU is going to be the 11600KF. The Seasonic SGX power supply is actually a SFXL form factor power supply. It is slightly bigger but fits perfectly within this case, and the included cables are quite good as well. And the cable management can be done via sorting out the cables and hide it behind the top case fan. The back opening for this case allows you to install the cooling solutions after you have mounted the board. Follow the manual, you'll be able to install the CPU cooling solutions one by one. The graphic card option is rather small, so it slides in without any problem. Attaching the power supply cable, you'll be ready to go. And just like the C24 case, removing the outer panels before the build is essential. Since the case is slightly bigger, so allows better cooling solution, the 12600KF is the natural choice. And we used ASUS Prime Z690M as our motherboard and B4 for the DDR4 RAM. And just like Thermalright SS110, the SS135 is just a slightly beefier solution for this particular CPU. If your cooling solution is somewhat huge or big, then you probably want to install the PSU in the final step right before the graphic card installation. After some cable sorting, all you have to do is just slide in the graphic card and you'll be ready to go. After the parts are in place, the C24 is about 13 pounds and the C26 is about 16 pounds. Both are portable and rather easy to be carried out. The 11600KF has been overclocked to 4.8 GHz all-cores, and the 12th generation was overclocked to 4.8 GHz all-core as well. But since 12th generation allows you to separate the overclocking features, the 1 or 2 core load becomes 5.2 GHz and the 4 core becomes 5.0 GHz. The games that only utilize 1 or 2 or maybe up to 3 cores, the 12th generation allows higher frequency to be ran, and especially within this Final Fantasy XIV Online benchmark tool, the 3060 Ti versus 3060, where the Ti version has about 20% of advantage in performance, and it also runs cooler thanks to the 2 fans versus 1. But within this benchmark tool, the 12th generation actually runs a little hotter than the 11th generation, where the 11th generation just doesn't seem to even try to gain any temperature. However, the performance looks normal. The Starswarm stress test mode allows us to see the GPU and the CPU gets loaded up together within the same time. With the 12th generation CPU runs a little hotter, it could actually reach up to 75 degrees Celsius. However, the 11th generation seems to be still pretty cold, and it only reached about 60 degrees. The graphic card's load doesn't seem to be as high as our previous test, so we are seeing less and less of a gap for the temperature between the 2 cards. With that being said, the 3060 Ti still runs about 5 degrees cooler than the single-fan 3060. So after the 6 minutes of stress tests, none of the graphic card or CPU got overheated and temperatures were fine. For older games, we fired up the Resident Evil 6 benchmark tool for this test. The game itself runs off of DirectX 9.0C, and it carries an extreme high frame count. So that actually puts a little higher stress on the CPU, and we can actually see it from the CPU temperature, which at normal load, the 12th generation fluctuates from 65 degrees to all the way to 75, and it can top to about 82 to 85 degrees Celsius, while the 11th generation only carries still around 50, 60 degrees. But keep in mind that both CPUs are overclocked, and the 12th generation was even overclocked to 5.2 GHz when running single or 2 threads. For the 3D Mark benchmarks that we are observing a little more consistent CPU temperatures, and also the GPU temperatures start to fluctuate because 3D Mark mainly runs off of the GPUs, and the CPUs carries a separate test. But still, just like any other tests, that we are not seeing any thermal throttling or any kind of sign of the system gets overheated. Something new for us as well. We hooked up a Oculus Quest 2 onto one of our systems, which namely the C24, to give a test for the VR. The system link is processed through AirLink, so it is wirelessly connected. After a lengthy playtime about an hour, and also with the headset, screen rendering, and also the screen recording software running, we don't see that high of a temperature, and the graphic card only runs about 60 degrees and the CPU only runs less than 50 degrees. So we call it a pretty good win. So you have it, two portable options for desktop cases, namely Mechanical Master C24 and C26. This is Master Bamboo. We wish you happy holidays and we'll see you next time.